coming here today to share a story with you guys so you get an understanding what this is all really about, alright? I'm going to be sharing stuff most of you would be very uncomfortable to share, so please bear with me, alright? It's not easy for me to get up and do this today, but I'm getting up here today, I'm holding my hands up, right? But when I hold my hands up, I'm going to be telling you the story of how they become into my life and how they stole my child, right? I had to write it out this week because every time I come out to try and tell my story, because the brain has been smashed to bits so much by what they've done by stealing my child from me when he was 6 years old, right? It's hard for me to tell the story, so please bear with me. I had to write it down this week, alright? I'm going to start telling it now. I grew up in a world where crime was normalised. It was just something people did. It was like a trade, a way of life. Accepted and expected. I became an armed robber, experienced hardened with a long heavy record. For most of my life I was stuck on that slippery slope. Committing crime, going to prison. Come out, do it again. To me that was an occupational hazard. Part of the job I didn't know any different. And I didn't think I ever would. Then everything changed. At age 40, all the dreams I never dared to dream finally came true. I met Charlie, my fiance, and we were going to have a baby. Suddenly, I had a reason to live. More than that, I had a reason to be a better man. I wanted to leave every bit of that old life behind. I wanted to be a father. That was then when Children's Services came into our lives in relation to the unborn child. We were invited in for a chat. And that is where we first met Jeffrey Clifford Williams. He seemed nice enough at first. He made us feel at ease. Said it was just touching base, just a routine check. Anytime we got worried or someone raised something that sounded scary, he would just smile and say, "Don't to worry, I'm only interested in the child." We believed him. We thought we were safe. He said he would go away to write his report and that we should hear back in about 4 weeks. 4 weeks later, Jeff came back to our house, but he wasn't there to update us on the report. He told us that he had been replaced. He was moving to work somewhere else. It hit me hard. I found it weird being hold a minute. He looked at me and asked, "How's Dad feeling?" It hit me hard. I found it weird being called Dad. I had never known my father. I never had that role model. Never had anyone to show me how it was done. But I was determined to learn to be the best at everything mine never was. I showed Jeff everything we had managed to get ready in such a short time. I was proud of it. I showed him the baby clothes, the steriliser, the baby monitor, the piles of clothes ranging from newborn all the way up to 9 months. We had prepared everything. We were ready. Little did I know this scheming man's true intentions, nor did I have any idea of a nightmare that was coming for us. Jeff said his goodbyes, told us a new social worker would be in touch, and left. The very next day, letters landed on the doormat. It was his report. We opened it with hope, with anticipation, ready to see that we were doing well and that we were good parents. What we read made our blood turn cold. It was filled with lies, pages after page of misinformation, false claims and made up stories. Everything we had said, everything we had shown him had been twisted or completely ignored. This report was what triggered the case. Our unborn child was now marked and the process began. We were in shock, scared out of our lives. We couldn't understand why he would be like that. Worse still, because Jeff had moved to another job, we were told that we could not challenge or change anything he had written in his report. It was set in stone, protected by his departure, and we were left carrying the weight of his lies. We were called in the child protection meeting. We stood our ground. We didn't back down. We told the truth. We showed them we were ready, we showed them we were changing. At the end of the meeting, when they realised they couldn't break us or catch us out, the senior social worker tried to provoke me. He tried to paint me as aggressive or dangerous, but I kept my cool. I knew what they were trying to do. Next came the court. This is where they really proved their true colours. They brought in hair strands as supposed to be scientific proof, something that cannot lie. They took samples from both Charlene and myself. They said this would prove once and for all if we was using drugs or alcohol. We had absolutely nothing to hide. We were clean. We were focused on our baby, on getting our lives right. We knew we had had nothing to worry about. But they twisted even the science. When the results came back, what they did was criminal. Both of us were given false positives. They claimed the test showed that we had taken substances, though we knew 100% we hadn't. Worse still, when tests actually came back negative, proving we were completely clear, they still tried to manipulate the test that was negative and write them up as a positive too. They literally took a result that said no drugs found and turned it into evidence against us. They lied about the science, they lied about the readings, they lied about what it meant, to when the truth didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was getting the result they wanted. They were going to make us look like addicts, whether it was true or not. There were other arguments. Our home, they said, our one-bedroom flat we lived in was unsuitable for a child. It was small, but it was warm, it was safe, and it was ours. We were working on moving, but they used our living situation like a weapon. From that moment on, the bullying started. They hounded Charlene, they emotionally tortured her every single day, right up until the very day before the baby girl was due to be born. I will never forget that day. It was the day before she was due. Charlene's legs and ankles were so swollen she could barely stand. She couldn't even walk across the room without pain. She told the social worker she couldn't walk and that she was angry. In agony. Do you know what the social worker said? She looked her dead straight in the eye. It's okay, we will just remove your child. Cold, calculated and cruel. The very next day, Maya Bella was born. Maya Bella is my beautiful little girl. And actually, in Italian, Mia Bella Lagasi means, my beautiful girl, I love you. Okay? Yes, I am. It was 6 days before the first COVID-19 lockdown. You can only imagine the fear we felt. We had been fighting for months, lied about, bullied, threatened, and now our little girl was here. Maya stayed in hospital for 6 days while they waited for a foster place to become available. When it did, it wasn't a loving home, it was more like a foster prison. And then lockdown fell. COVID became their biggest weapon. It was a perfect tool for them to break us, and especially to break Charlene. They moved her into that same system, monitoring her every move, controlling her, telling her she couldn't go anywhere, couldn't see her family, couldn't get support. They isolated her completely. They did everything in their power to crush her spirit, to make her give up, to make her break. While she was trapped there alone, while the whole world was shut down, while business was closed, and you could be arrested for leaving your house, the social workers kept writing updates. They claimed Charlene was going into public houses drinking alcohol. They said she was getting her hair done. Well, everyone remember at them times, all the public houses were all closed. All the barbers, the hairdressers were all closed. This is COVID times, people. That's what I'll try to remind you. None of it was true. None of it was possible. The pubs were closed. The hairdressers were closed. The laws of the land said you could not do those things. It was impossible, but they wrote it down anyway. They used it, lies, to build a case against a mother who was stuck inside 4 walls crying for her baby while the world stood still. They managed to steal our daughter from Charlene, but they didn't know who they were dealing with. I wasn't just an ex-robber anymore. I had been studying, I had learned the law, I had learned every single rule, every procedure, every right we had. I knew exactly how they operated, because I had spent my life around people who scheme and lie. And I saw exactly what they were doing. I challenged them hard. I fought them every step of the way. And I tied them up for another year. It drove them mad. It annoyed them more than anything, because here's the truth. Within 3 weeks of the final hearing, they had already found my child's forever home. They had it all lined up from the start. They intended to let us have her back. It was decided before even we got into court. Throughout the whole year of fighting, the social workers kept using the same excuse, and over again they would say the prospective adopters are only willing to await for a couple of months. If this carries on, they will have to try for another child. Please, God, there is not a dog or a cat that's not going to work out for you. This is a child, okay? Right, and they weren't prepared to wait, they said. However, it was a lie, all of it. I held them to account. I refused to let them rush it. I made them prove every single thing. And do you know what happened? Those exact 2 people to adopt my child waited another year while my case was going on, fighting for my child. So they're waiting there with their fishing net ready to catch my child. They waited every single month I fought them. They waited while I exposed their lies. They waited while I could prove everything they had done said was false. If they were willing to wait a couple of months, why did they wait 12? It was all a game, a lie to pressure us, to make us give up, to make us sign away our rights, because we thought there was no time left. Then came the end of the case, the final blow, the final nail in the coffin. Even though we had proven so much wrong, even though we had fought them for a year, even though we were clean, stable and ready, the court ruled that I would need to be monitored and supervised for a further 12 to 18 months. And that's more to do with the life that I came from, that I turned my back on. Okay? Before I could be considered to care for my own child. So they wanted 12 to 18 months of me being monitored. I haven't been in trouble since 2017. This was in 2023. And I have no reason to lie about this. And I'm admitting to being an armed robber in the street of my past. I will hold my hands up. I've done a lot of bad wrong. But I didn't deserve to lose my child the way I did. That was the excuse they needed. That was a door slammed shut forever. They said that we needed another year or more of monitoring. It put my child completely out of my reach. They told the court that Maya Bella could not wait for that long. She needed her forever loving family. It didn't matter we had waited years. It didn't matter we were for her real family. It didn't matter that we had done nothing. We had done everything they asked. The requirement for more monitoring became the reason they gave her away. They used time as a weapon. They used a weight we didn't need to take her away forever. The awakening. But while all this was going on, while I was fighting in court and watching Charlene suffer, I was doing something else in secret. I was researching every night, every spare minute. I was online, searching, digging. I went through social media groups, pages, forums, looking for other parents, looking for other stories. I couldn't believe what I found. There was literally thousands and thousands of parents going through exactly the same thing. Same lies, same excuses, same manipulation of evidence. Same manipulation of evidence. Same bullying, same system, stealing their children. I wasn't just one, it just wasn't one unlucky case. This was an industry. This was a scandal bigger than anything I had ever seen in my life. Bigger than any bank robbery or any organised crime I had ever come across. I saw it clear as day. These people were not saving children, they were stealing children, and they were getting away with it every single day. I made the decision right there and then. Someone has to stand up to these child stealing scum. My heart was broken. I had lost my daughter. I had watched the woman I loved be destroyed. But that pain turned into fire. I started speaking out. I started sharing my story. And before I knew it, I had built a following, an army of angry, disgruntled, hurt but brave parents who had all had one thing in common. They had all been robbed of their children, and they had all been silenced. I started a small movement called Storm London. Every month we met, I stood up in public, I spoke loud and clear, and I told people for the truth. I exposed the lies, I told them how children are taken, how reports are falsified, how science is twisted, how families are destroyed. I showed the public and truth about one of the biggest, darkest scandals this country has ever seen. But I didn't stop there. Now I'm starting something even bigger. I'm now a founder. I'm co-founder of the Save Our Children Army. We don't just talk, we act. I have stepped into the ring boxing, fighting for charity matches to raise money and awareness. I have joined hunting teams, patrolling the streets to catch paedophiles and predators, making sure they can't hurt any child ever again. We fought for changes in law, demanding bans on harmful explicit sex education being taught to young children. They ignored us the first time, so we went back harder. We marched, we protested, we made so much noise that Janet Davey, the MP involved, she walked out of the office in September just gone. She basically got run out of the office after we gave her all the evidence of what was going on. We run her out of office. Who I am, this is who I am now. Right? I am Kieran Thomas. I was an armed robber. I grew up thinking crime was a job. I went to prison more times than I can count. I lived a life that was rough, wrong and full of mistakes. But let me tell you now, I sure as hell am doing the best now to save others. The system thought because I had a record I would be an easy pushover. They thought I wouldn't understand the law. They thought I wouldn't fight. They thought they could falsify reports, twist silence, lie to the court and use monitoring as a final excuse to take my daughter and get away with it. They were wrong. I turned my life around, not to just be a father, but to be a warrior. I went from robbing banks to exposing corruption, from seeing prison as normal to fighting for justice, from being part of the problem to leading the fight to fix it. They stole Mayor Bella. That's my daughter. They broke our family, they lied, they manipulated results and used every trick in the book to keep us apart. But they created something they never expected. An ex-robber who knows exactly how thieves operate and who is determined to bring them down. I am Kieran Thomas, ex-armed robber, father, campaigner, co-founder of the Save Our Children Army. And I will not stop fighting until every child is safe, every family is protected, and every one of these child-stealing scum is held to account. Thank you very much. My name is Kieran Thomas. If you've got any questions, I'm willing to answer at the end. Thank you.